starting with France, a history teacher who discussed caricatures of Prophet Muhammad with his students was beheaded and the suspect was shot dead by the police near Paris. The attack took place in the street in front of the school where the victim worked. This gruesome incident happened in a suburb around 40 kilometers from Paris. The attacker, armed with a knife and an air gun, was shot dead a few streets away from where the teacher was beheaded. According to a judicial source, the suspect was an 18-year-old born in Moscow and originating from Russia's Chechnya, according to the police. Now, the attacker shouted Allahu Akbar or God is greatest as they confronted him. 5 more people have been detained over the murder, including the parents of a child at the school where the teacher was working. The French anti-terrorism prosecutor had opened an investigation concerning murder with a suspected terrorist motive. Police said that the teacher had received threats after discussing the cartoons with his class about 10 days ago. Now, the depiction of the Prophet Muhammad is considered blasphemous by Muslims. According to the police, the parent of a student had filed a complaint against the teacher. However, the suspected killer did not have a child at the school. French President Emmanuel Macron visited the school where the teacher worked and met with the staff as well. He denounced what he called an Islamist terrorist attack and has urged the country to stand united against extremism.
One of our countrymen, whose name I won't state publicly here tonight because the prosecutor will be speaking in the next hours and he will go into the facts and details of what happened here. But he was assassinated because he was teaching his students about the freedom of expression, the freedom to believe or not believe. Our compatriot was a victim of an Islamist terrorist attack.
Parent of a pupil described the teacher who was beheaded, and I quote, as a super kind, super nice man. The teacher is said to have asked his Muslim pupils to leave the classroom out of respect because he wanted to show the class a cartoon of Prophet Muhammad.
According to my son, he was super nice, super friendly, super kind. The polemic that there was that he would have taken out the Muslim children, my son told me that it was just to preserve them. It was out of pure kindness because he had to show a caricature of the Prophet of Islam and simply said to the Muslim children, "Go out, I don't want it to hurt your feelings." That's what my son told me.
And now for more on this, journalist Stéphane Defrayet is joining in live from Paris. Thank you so much for joining us. Friday's attack, as you know, comes as a trial continues relating to a series of January 2015 terrorist attacks which began with the massacre at Charlie Hebdo offices following the publication of caricatures depicting the Prophet Muhammad. Could you begin by telling us a little bit about this incident?
Well, the incident yesterday has to do with the fact that the teacher who was killed had showed images published by the weekly Charlie Hebdo. Charlie Hebdo was, of course, attacked 5 years ago in 2015. 13 people lost their lives in a terrorist attack, in a wave of terrorist attacks in a weekend in Paris that also saw the killing of people in a kosher supermarket and a police officer. Now, this month and last month is also the time that the court case is now under its way of the Charlie Hebdo attacks. The main suspects have been killed at the time, but many people in their surroundings, accomplices, they are standing on trial right now. So there's new publicity generated around the publication of the Charlie Hebdo caricatures in 2015. And that's probably also the reason why the teacher showed this week in one of his classes. He did ask, however, Muslim pupils if they would be offended. In that case, they could leave the classroom in order that they would not be shocked. It was a request. So he did show the caricatures in his classroom. Some parents were upset, but it is not clear if this suspect who has been killed yesterday had any relations to the school. He is an 18-year-old man originally born in Moscow, from Chechen background, a Muslim, and when he was shot down by police, he shouted Allah Akbar, God is great. This makes the French police believe that there is a terrorist motive behind this attack, but it does come indeed in a time when the events around Charlie Hebdo from 2015 are again in the French media.
Yes. All right, Stéphane, now President Macron has called this an Islamist attack and has also urged the country to stand united against extremism. How do you assess the statement?
Well, there's actually a proposition of a new law being discussed in Parliament this month, a law which is called a law against separatism, which aims to impose the strict separation of church and religion in France. The country does not want to tolerate any kind of what they call obscure groups, so they can threaten the integrity of the republic, of the nation. So this is a pretty controversial law, but it is widely debated in French society. France is an outlier in Europe when it comes to the separation of state and church. It is very difficult for any religion to have any links with the state. As you may know, it's also forbidden in French schools and French public buildings to wear any religious signs. Now, this is seen by a lot of Muslims as basically a law against them, against the Islam society or a Muslim community, if you like. Now, the French government said, no, this is to fight against all kinds of excesses of religions. But of course, it is very clear that the Muslim society is the one, in the eyes of the French government, causing sometimes trouble. And of course, the attack yesterday doesn't do much good for the community. And many Muslims have already said that they were shocked and find it awful, and that this is not a way Muslims should behave. So they're strongly condemning yesterday's attack.
Yes, you make a very important point there. Now, how do you see this unfolding in the days to come?
Well, it has to be, of course, the police investigation is going on, so it has to become clear whether this person acted on his own or that he is part of a group. Also, there have now been 9 people who have been arrested, so they will probably be interrogated to see whether this was a group activity or really a solo action. And of course, the unions of all the teachers, they asked better protection, better support of the government. There will be very likely many support demonstrations in the next couple of days, despite the very strong regulations in France when it comes to stop the spread of the coronavirus, of course. But demonstrations are allowed as long as people respect the social distance of 1 meter. Of course, many people are very shocked and upset by this new attack, but it could well maybe a very isolated act. But that is something that the police investigation has to reveal in the next couple of days or weeks.
Yes. All right, Stefan, thank you so much for joining us with all those details. We will continue to closely track this. Thank you.